for the ones that have just joined us, welcome to the April Energizer breakfast. We are happy and thankful to have Pierluigi Paracchi, CEO of Genenta, with us. Thank you very much, Pierluigi, for taking the time and being with us. And let me say hi to Cristian, my fellow colleague. He's the topic leader of healthcare. And thank you very much for setting up this very interesting opportunity. For those who don't know me yet, my name is Camilla Budelli. I'm supporting the Bocconi alumni community in the coordination of the Energizer Breakfast Edition. And as I was saying at the start, I'm really looking forward to seeing you all in person, hopefully sometime this year. Before we jump into the topic of the morning, let me just remind that what inspires us this morning at this very early hour is Bocconi alumni. We are more than 120,000 people all over the world, and we pride ourselves to be united by the values of knowledge that matters and lifelong learning. And we hope that this is an opportunity that you feel interesting and useful to build on the knowledge that matter. We think so. We've been chatting with Pierluigi before, so we hope that this is going to be a session that you will capitalize upon on the takeaways that we are going to discuss today. I always remind ourselves that a great value that inspires the community is also our will to give back, and we say to give forward. So our contribution, no matter in what form, is a way of feeling and perpetuating the values that we have that have inspired us during our studies. So we're pretty proud and we want to really evangelize what constitutes us as a community. It's time now to get into the focus of the discussion. So I'm very happy to have Cristian introduce us into the morning. As you know, we are going to go through an interview, and then there's going to be room for your questions. Whatever question you may have, will you please put them into the chat? And Cristian and myself will pose them to Pierluigi at the end of our session. So, Cristian, over to you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Camilla. Thank you all for coming in. Now, I introduced a bit Genenta and Pierluigi, but we are going soon in the question and asking Pierluigi to tell us about the company and the experience, the particular experience that we want to share today. So, Genenta is an Italian clinical stage biotechnology company pioneering the treatment of cancer with a technology platform that allows to the direct delivery of immunotherapeutic payloads within the tumor microenvironment. It's a very complex company founded inside the Ospedale San Raffaele. Pierluigi is the co-founder with Naldini, with Professor Naldini, and there is a very interesting company facing the new frontiers of cancer treatment. But Pierluigi it will be more specific. So Pierluigi is a co-founder, as I say, and CEO of Genenta, and is one of the soul of the company. And his experience is he started graduating in economics and management at the Università Cattolica, and then is founder of Quantica SGR. He has a large experience in venture capital, in equity capital, and so is very able to bring a company, a technology company, to this type of success. He is very aware of deep science, and is an example of the possibility, the necessity of merging scientific knowledge with economic and managing knowledge. So it would be very interesting to hear about his experience. So, Pierluigi, tell us about Genenta, and if you want, how does this project start, and which are its current areas of activity? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Camilla. Thank you, Cristian. I want to know from you guys if you need to enter in the science, or do you prefer to stay on the economic side? Because I think that in these years of experience, one of my role was to be a good translator from the scientists to the finance and the finance to the scientists. So if you want, I can give you really a highlight, high view about the company. And I really hope that we can have an open discussion, especially, I think, about the last step that we have done. So the IPO on Nasdaq, that's something that we reached in December of the last year. And I don't know if you are aware of that, but there are no other companies, Italian legal entity, Italian company listed on Nasdaq. And this is something that I understood along my process to go public in the US. And in my mind, in my idea, this is something that really have an impact on my view of the storytelling of the Italian innovation, no? Because we spoke a lot about startups, about innovation, about science, technology, and everything. And when you go to check on the world market for technology companies, you see that there are no Italian listed company there. And this is something to say, oh my God, maybe our storytelling needs to be reviewed somehow. And but anyway, let me start from the technology, from the story. Let me say from the company. Genenta, as Cristian said, is a spinout from San Raffaele Hospital. I think that you are aware that there is this important research center and hospital close to Milano, in the east part of Milano, that is really one of the most competitive center for cell and gene therapy in the world. In fact, not a lot of people are aware that the first ever ex vivo gene therapy, that is advanced therapy, has been approved not in Silicon Valley or Boston, Cambridge, but in Milano, thanks to the collaboration between San Raffaele Hospital and GSK. GSK is a big pharmaceutical company. And if in a sector so complex and so organized like pharma and biotech, you are the first one in the world, that means that you have a really good preparation in terms of scientists, physicians, technicians, regulatory experts, because it's not possible to create in my sector garage companies. So it's not something that you can decide in the morning, okay, I think that I can launch a new TikTok or a social media and it's done without any specific regulation. But a small biotech or a large biotech, for good reason, have to do the same path to get the authorization for a product. So if you are the first one in the world in an advanced therapy like cell and gene therapy, that means that you are really organized and you have a long experience from the science to the clinical part to reach this incredible result. So this is the backbone. So Genenta exists thanks to the fact that before Genenta, the experience of San Raffaele Hospital and Professor Luigi Naldini was incredible, with an incredible track record in rare diseases. Now, with that backbone, the idea of Genenta is to move this platform, this gene therapy platform for the first version for rare diseases to something that is not so rare, that is oncology. That is the second step of the evolution. So I don't want to make every question with a long answer, but let me...
No, it's interesting. Keep on. I mean, this gives us a very good feeling of the platform you're starting from.
So after that experience, we decided in 2014 to launch together with San Raffaele Hospital, that is one of the co-founders of the company, because they provide all the intellectual properties to the company. Two key scientists, Professor Luigi Naldini, that is the director of the San Raffaele Teleton Institute for Gene Therapy, and Dr. Bernhard Gentner, that is a German guy that decided to work in Italy in the gene therapy space. That is another key scientist and a physician in the oncology space. So 4 plus me. So me, San Raffaele Hospital, Professor Naldini and Bernard Genter, Dr. Bernard Genter decided to launch the company in 2014, July 2014. After, let me say another couple of things. First, the target was oncology, was oncology, and using a cell and gene therapy strategy to treat tumors. IPs stem from, as I told you, from San Raffaele Hospital, and as a spin-out, we handled the potential conflict of interest for the scientists, for the hospital, to create a company inside the San Raffaele Hospital that can work on the oncology field. Every 2 years, we have done a capital increase, raising money. So in March of 2015, together with Mediobanca, that was our advisor at the time, we raised our Series A, 10 million euros. 2 years later, Series B, 2017. Other 2 years, 2019, sorry. In 2019, we raised the Series C for a total in the private round of 33.2 million euros. And 2 years later, we went public on Nasdaq in December of 2021. So I can tell you that as a CEO of the company was a busy period.
Wow.
With every 2 years, something that was not that trivial, let me say, in especially in Italy, where the venture capital is really at the beginning of its story. But anyway, let me follow your question.
Sure. So thank you for this overview. We understand that it seems to be a perfect storm, a very good combination of knowledge of the financial structure and key resources in terms of science and technology, and starting or trying to focus on the latter. Where does the excellence of Genenta lay? You've mentioned something about it. Maybe Genenta and the key scientists are the first comers in this technology or science. Where would you say the strength in terms of science and technology lay?
It's a good question, Camilla. I mean, let me start from this point. In Italy, the quality of the science on average is good, and sometimes is really great. There are not a lot of Italian centers that can compete in the world for something that is an advanced therapy. It's possible, in my experience, to launch company, spin out company, if before the launch of the company there are important investment from government money, charity, grants. So the company or the spin-out is something that can be launched after an important investment that cover the initial risk of the company, of the science. Investors are not eager to invest in something that is a research program. They wanted to see a company. They want to see a development program. They want to see a project to create value. And this is something that is not something that you can do from scratch when you are in the labs, but you need the support of different type of mind that can take different risks, and then you can launch a company. So the result that Naldini and San Raffaele got in the past was possible thanks to the support of a charity and government money, European or Italian government money. Mm-hmm. After that, in a specific sector that is not, let me say, a large market, but it's in the middle between a real product and a research program. Thanks to the collaboration with a big pharmaceutical company, they got the authorization for to launch a product in cell and gene therapy. In that case, the experience was on a super rare disease, only few patients per year, but that was sufficient to prove the technology, to prove the approach, and to show to the scientific world that my group was able to get to move from the bench to the patients a product and to get an authorization for an advanced therapy. This is something that it's really remarkable in terms of result, and the impact on the patient was huge in terms that this kind of patient that has been treated by Professor Naldini died in few months, and now they have an opportunity, a clear opportunity to survive. And this is, wow. Yes, and the impact was incredible. Now, thanks to that experience, and with the first proof of concept of the technology, it's possible to move and to enlarge and to leverage this technology and to enter in autoimmune disease, oncology, and so on. For example, the lentivirus is the technology developed by Professor Luigi Naldini at San Raffaele Hospital. And it's important for you to know that this is an HIV-derived viral vector. So he decided in the middle of the 90s, so more than 25 years ago, to work around a very aggressive and very dangerous virus, HIV, that caused the AIDS. To work on that and to create something safe, but as potent as the HIV in the capability to transduce the cell. This is something that changed the story of the cell and gene therapy space. And in 25 years, is something that really have an important impact on the patients.
Okay.
Now we are moving the same platform, the same concept in the oncology space, and other companies in which, for example, I'm involved in another company as a co-founder and non-executive director that is named Altea. They are exploring the opportunity to use the lentivirus platform for autoimmune disease like type 1 diabetes. So it's very interesting, and it's so rare that in Italy we can find a science so advanced that can address and try to change the evolution of so aggressive disease as oncology and the type 1 diabetes. Yeah. This is, as I said, is the backbone to launch a company like Genenta.
Thank you. Very interesting. I see that questions are coming, so this is very stimulating. Cristian, maybe over to you for the next question.
Yes. We are very interested in knowing something about your organization. So you have decided with the IPO to leave research in Italy, but CFO and CMO in US. Where lies the advantage of this type of organization based in Italy? This is very interesting because we always think about moving a research to US and leaving the company here. Now, it is the opposite. And so you move the administration, you can say, in US and leaving research here. It's very interesting to explain us why.
No, it's a great question, because for us it was possible to go public in the US because part of the team, part of the C-suite is US based. And for us, for an Italian company, it's a great success to be able to attract people, skills from abroad, and especially from a more advanced economy like United States. But anyway, back to your question. So we try to, I think that in Italy, the cost of the preclinical and clinical study and the cost of the scientist is very, very competitive, no? And this is something that really, maybe in the European world, in the Western world, we are the best place in terms of cost effective for human resources. you can see as a disadvantages for people that work here, also for people that are around this discussion, because you know why? I mean, we study a lot, we are very competitive, but the compensation in Italy are totally different than abroad, and that is true. To be honest, it's true. And but this is could be used as an advantage if you wanted to move, in our case, the clinical and preclinical work in our country. So the idea of Genenta was is to be based, to continue to exploit the advantage of the great science, very cost effective in Italy, and to have the development part and the C-suite part in the US where there is the experience. So the real lack that there is in Italy in terms of innovation, not only in the biotech space, in my opinion, clearly, is that we have great science, we have great scientists, we have a brilliant brain around, but there are not a lot of people that have a long experience in the development. When you launch a company, you need development skills. You need someone that have spent a ton of time in big pharmaceutical company, in my case, or in big innovation technology companies, and they use the money of that company to make experience, to make mistakes. And then after 20 plus years in that role, they are a great support for launch a startup company. So for us, it was not easy. It's not easy, and it was not easy to find people with development capabilities. For example, our chief medical officer and head of development, that is a key figure, as you can imagine, in a biotech company, because it's the man that decide, is an MD, is a medical doctor that decide when and how and in which way to develop a product. No? And this is a former, it's the former head of GSK, GlaxoSmithKline, the former head of rare disease, R&D rare disease at GSK. And working with the idea to go public in the US, I don't want to say that it's not possible to do with an Italian or European CFO, but the threshold is so high, the SEC threshold is so high, that it's better to have someone from the US with not only the language, the English, but the US GAAP language that you need to go public there, with the experience with the SEC, with the experience of the US auditors. So also for that reason, we decided to bring on board a CFO from the US. So we have the CMO in Princeton, New Jersey. We have the CFO in San Diego, California. And our chairman is also another US guy. He lives between Florida and New York. He's the former co-founder, one of the two co-founders of Alexion. Alexion is a pharma company acquired by AstraZeneca 1 year ago for more than 40 billion. And this is something that really supports us, this team, this C-suite support us to be reliable for the US investor. Because as you can imagine, to cross the ocean, it's really tough, especially in terms of credibility to attract the US money. Because for us, for all the Europeans, we think that US more or less is the same. We have the same level of knowledge. We have the same level of culture. We have the same economic power. No, and to be honest, now we think that we are the old Europe with, let me say, more culture. We are more prepared. In the US, they are sometimes crazy. They do wars and everything. But when you enter in the US market, you really understand that they are so US-centric that Europe and Italy is something so far away from their mind that it's so difficult to convince them to put and to invest money in a non-US company. So, no, please.
No, I just want to say it's kind of a dot on the map, right? So
yeah,
Italy and Europe. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the Lombardy platform in life science is very, very, very interesting. This is a key point in our development, I think.
And I wonder, Pierluigi, really, I'm happy to see that questions are raining. It's raining questions. So before we maybe switch to the more finance related, I would pick a couple that take us back to, if you agree, Cristian, take us back to the more science part of this discussion. Claudio is asking who owns the intellectual property of the products and the solutions developed by Genenta? And then I would match this with Marco's question asking how can Genenta manage clinical trials with very few patients with rare diseases needed for therapy approval by FDA and EMA?
Okay. About the first question, that is the right question to understand Spinout. In our case, the owner of the IP is and remains San Raffaele Hospital. Genenta has a licensee from San Raffaele Hospital, a worldwide licensee for the development of the product. Exclusive licensee agreement. And we have something as an extension of this license agreement based on the improvements that has been developed in the San Raffaele Hospital in the Luigi Naldini's lab. So we have also a package of exclusive options on the programs that are under development at the San Raffaele Hospital in the Naldini's lab. So it's a mix between an exclusive worldwide licensing agreement plus exclusive option right on the improvement of the technology. So it's a mix of the two. San Raffaele remain the owners. We are not only the case of this kind of management. San Raffaele used to keep the ownership of the IP, and they licensing out every time to different companies or to partner the IP. They want to maintain, and this is something that I can understand, the ownership of the licensing, because in our case, for example, our IP, we are focused on our field of use is the oncology. And they can use the same IP, for example, in another field if it's possible to find an application, and they have the San Raffaele Hospital have the opportunity to licensing out the same IP that we're using for oncology in another field of use if there is an interest. About the second question on the management of the clinical trials. At the moment, we are performing our clinical trial here in Europe, so under EMA, under the Italian AIFA and the Istituto Superiore di Sanità, because one is already discussed about the cost, and second, clearly we have an advantage to work in our nation and in our country because San Raffaele is one of our partners and is one of the leading centers, as I told you many times, in performing cell and gene therapy. So we are really leveraging on that experience to find the first proof of concept of the technology. About the organization, I can give an example. When I was a VC, as Cristian mentioned in the introduction, I was one of the investors of EOS, Ethical Oncology Science. There was another Italian biotech company. I invested in that company in 2009. And after 4 years, 2013, we sold that company to a company listed on Nasdaq for more than 400 million euros, so $400 million. And the total number of employees of EOS was the 3 founders, a secretary, and a support to one of the 3 founders that was the chief medical officer. So 5 people were able to create value for more than $400 million. In our sector, it's important in the company, in the spin-out, to put together IP, licensing or the patent, top management with a long experience and money that can support the activity. For us, everything is outsourced. The manufacturing is done by a multinational company named AGC, and they produce the drug product, and all the clinical activity has been performed in different research center and hospital like San Raffaele, Gemelli in Rome, Istituto Neurologico Besta here in Milano, Bergamo, Brescia Hospital, and others. And also the clinical part is performed by San Raffaele Hospital. So Genenta has a lot of biotech companies. That is a lean startup with senior people. So we are not organized to hire or to have a team that have not a long experience, because we don't have time and we are not organized to support the growth of young scientists that want to enter in the sector. But we need people with a great seniority that can really manage different hospital or preclinical work in a hospital.
Okay, thank you. Christian, over to you, or do you want me to?
You want to do some? No, there is an interesting question posed by Giacomo. This day, all biotech sector is suffering in 2022. Suffering, yes. But the worst month ever since index creation XB. How do you explain the sudden disrupt and investor have showed in this phase? There is a great crisis, but there is a lot of investors. So, what is the?
This attendees is very prepared, no? And yes, as a listed company and as a CEO of a listed company, I'm trying to survive this period. It's not easy. You have to consider the biotech sector in the last 3 years. No, it was an incredible boom thanks to the COVID that really support the sector in terms not only of COVID-related companies, vaccine and antibodies, but also all the sector has been discovered as very interesting from the investors. So 2020 was an incredible year for all the sector. And it was the same until February of 2021. Maybe a lot of hype and maybe too much. But what really changed the story of the biotech sector was not only, let me say, the hype and the return to the normality of a very spicy sector as biotech, but something that really changed around the sector, no? Especially the economic situation really changed the story for all the techs, all the tech companies, and biotech is part of the tech, so it's a growth sector. And if you consider what really is changing in terms of interest rate, inflation, I want to mention only the war that really is pushing the price so high. But the question is that in all your economic graduates or students, no, in all the model, all the financial model that try to find, let me say, a valuation for a tech company, the discount cash flow, no, the DCF, the interest rate that used in the DCF model is something that can really change the valuation in the long term, especially if a company is valuated only not for revenues year by year, but for a potential return one day for a product or for revenues really far away in the future. So this is something that really changed the approach and the view from the analyst on the tech sector and on the biotech sector. But back to the fundamental part of our industry, nothing. If I can speak about Genenta, nothing is related to the story of the company, of the science. There is really something that is changed on the market. If you see the performance of oil companies, defense companies, everything, it's really remarkable the result that they get, despite the fact that biotech and tech is really going down. But trading is one thing, and the fundamental of the company is another thing. And I have an example to try to explain this part. I don't want to make a comparison between me and this example, but I think that the example is very interesting. Jeff Bezos during the dot-com bubble in the 2000, remember us that the stock price of Amazon was $116 and it went down from 116 to 6. Every day, he saw the price go down 5, 3, 4, 10%. But when he went to inside the office, for him it was quite impossible. For him and his team, it was quite impossible to satisfy all the orders that they received for the book. No? So there is this incredible difference sometimes from the financial market and the industry and the company and the real market. And this is a typical example because there are so many situations outside, geopolitical situation, economical situation, that it's really difficult to find the reality between the price and the market. No? For example, Genenta is working in the right direction. Our data are good data. We just published the data for a Congress in the US that confirm everything that we mentioned for the IPO. And even if this is the situation, our price is below the IPO price. Why? I mean, there is trading, there is a fund manager that decides to move from one sector to another. And this can create incredible opportunity in our sector because now there are, this is very interesting, there are more than 100 companies listed on Nasdaq, biotech companies listed on Nasdaq, where they are trading below the cash that they have in the bank.
Wow. Interesting. So,
Camilla, there is another interesting question posed by Giovanni. There is interesting because he's talking about sustainability, because we know that the type of therapy are a problem for the healthcare system. Italy, it was underfinanced, is a system underfinanced. So how can the Italian healthcare system afford this type of personalized therapies? If there is an answer.
Giovanni is right. This is a very strong debate in the industry because we are really changing, the approach and the complexity of drug products. So think about the comparison between one pills and what we do. We take the patients. We collect the hematopoietic stem cell. We prepare the lentiviral vector in the labs. We put it together outside the patients, the hematopoietic stem cell and the virus with a gene inside. Then there is the transduction. Then we infuse the patients. So this is something that is more complex, and the cost is totally different than producing one pill, 2 pills, or whatever. But clearly, so I have the example of the CAR T, that is another technology that have a tremendous success in the blood tumors, and the cost is 300, 400 K per patient. Now, this is something that could be unaffordable. But first, all the cell and gene therapy and gene editing product aim to have a one-shot treatment. They want to treat just one time the patients forever. So you need to compare a very high cost, but for one shot versus the long-term treatment of that patient. And second, you are all with a long experience in the economy, and you are working somehow in the industry and the innovation sector. Every time that there is an innovation, the cost is so high. Think about the first mobile phone. No, it was not affordable. Think about what IBM said about the first the first computer. Only few in the world because the cost is so high. Everyone now has an iPhone. Everyone has a laptop in front of them. And somehow, cell and gene therapy and gene editing, in my opinion, can follow the same path. Now that we are at the beginning of the story, at the beginning of the technology, at the beginning of the revolution, the costs seems really unaffordable for the system, for the patient, for everyone. But as you can imagine, the improvement of the technology is something that can really change of one logarithm the cost. So now what is cost 500K maybe will be cost 50 in 5 years or maybe less. We have to believe in the incredible capability when you have a product that works. When you have a product that works and you have a market in front of you, in our case, the market are the patients, and there are millions of patients in the oncology space. And in that case, we will find way to reduce the cost to serve all the patients. So this is my view in the mid-term, let me say.
Okay. I wonder, very, very interesting, and picking on some other questions, I would take us back to the Nasdaq strategy. So the first question would be, did you choose a public IPO in order to fund the costs of the research? And if doing so, is it a widespread approach for benchmarks of your companies that would do so? And connected to this, what abilities and strengths in the organization do you need to face such a challenge, like being a startup, trying to be listed on a foreign market, and plus a very competitive one? And picking on Laura's question, this also takes me to what kind of culture, company culture, you would need to have with you. We imagine empowering and a risk-taking one, although you're speaking of very few people there, but we think that they are prone to risk, but very focused, and notwithstanding market shakedowns, to be able to set the bar right and to pursue their goals. So why did you feel it was the right time and to go for a Nasdaq IPO? What strengths could you leverage in order to get there? And how are these reflected in the culture of the people that you attract in the company?
Wow.
So we could talk for hours. I do realize that you have 15 minutes, but you've been so stimulating that.
No, it's fine. So one question could be, just to start from this angle. Why Nasdaq? No? Why you decide to try to cross the ocean, to go in a very competitive market where there is no other companies there, few European, no Italian companies? The question is that it's better to us to stay together with our peers. If there are other companies, and in the Nasdaq there are so many biotech companies, you have the advantage that there are a ton of analysts, bankers, investors that are prepared to appreciate the risk of an early clinical stage company like Genenta, because they are analyzing every day companies in the same stage of development. So where there are your peers is the right market to be. To be honest, for us, would have been easier to go public in the Italian market. The reason why you think about today. So for me, I appreciate that Bocconi University, that is the top economic university, need to invite me to have a 1 hour speech with his fellows. It's not the same for me to reach Harvard, Stanford, Columbia, because the competition is there is so aggressive. So in Italy, we are a case. In the US, we are one of the 100 people that go public every year. But there are no biotech company listed on the Italian market apart from one that is quite advanced, that is named Philogen, but it's not, let me say, a startup, a former startup. It's a 20 plus years company, not already a pharma company, but something in line to be one day a pharma company with product in the phase 3. So there are no other peers in the Italian market. And even if you see the European market, the Euronext or other UK, it's the numbers of peers that could be comparable to Genenta are so few that it doesn't make any sense to go there. And to be honest, this is one of our problems in Europe. The real competition for the US market to attract technology doesn't arrive from Europe, but the real competitor of Nasdaq is in China, is Hong Kong and the star market of Shanghai. And this is a problem for us. Because if we wanted to compete, we need a ton of money in the innovation. Genenta has raised around $80 million from private and public raising. And this is only, let me say, a beginning of the story. And you need market with investor prepared to take the risk to invest in a company in a new technology. And Europe is so risk adverse that the few companies that you can meet listed are late stage with lower valuation, with not experience to take that kind of risk. So for us, it was not, let me say, a choice. We were obliged to go there because our market is there. In terms of culture, before COVID, Genenta was already a virtual company. We were already using Zoom so much because think about the geography. And we cover from San Diego to Shanghai because one of our key investors of the Series C is a Chinese investment company. So for us, I mean, we can work 20 hours per day, without almost without any limit on that. So we as a culture, it's a mix between, even if we are a startup, we are somehow a multinational company for the reason that I just explained. Yeah. So we are totally open and think about how the world has changed. I met physically my CFO for the first time after the IPO on the ceremony at Nasdaq on the December 20th. The first time that I met face to face my CFO. Wow! And you need to be really prepared to have something that is the bottom line of your culture. And for Genenta, for a company like us, is the entrepreneurial approach of everyone. Since you are working from home, since you are not with, let me say, a real chief, since you don't have, let me say, a day-by-day specific activity to do, you need to think as an entrepreneur. No? You have to wake up and say, how can I create value today for my company?
Yeah. And I guess this is also related with the maturity of people that are working at this stage. An nasty question would be, any woman inside? Any woman previewed?
Yeah, in the board, we have only one woman, but she is the head of business development at Sarafel Hospital. Okay. And in the team, one of our senior, that is a senior project manager, is a PhD, and she's a lady. And we have also other 3 ladies in the team.
Great. Well done. Good answer. Cristian, I see other questions coming. Do you want to take one?
Yeah. One is very interesting by Francesco. It's a very challenging question. Do you think about constituting as a BCorp because you have an interesting social impact in the activity, because oncology or healthcare sector is very challenging this type of social impact. And so if you have managed an idea to constitute as a big corporation. And then there is a question it's a very, very long question by Francesco.
Yeah, maybe we can take one at a time. What do you think?
Yeah. It's interesting.
Okay, about the BCorp from Francesco, yes, could make a lot of sense. We are not at the moment. We are working in a sector that is full impact. Clearly, I like to say that we have a lot of investors, but we have anyway a lot of supporters for the activity that we are doing. And this is something that is really like about the job that we are performing in Genenta, because our aim is really to have an impact on the oncology patients. And this is our first aim. And since we are not, let me say, a B2C company, we are not here to sell something to someone, but we are here to prove the quality and the efficacy of the technology. Our approach is very BCorp, as you said. And think about our investment for 90+% is research and development. We will think about that.
Okay. Another Francesco takes us to a different topic, and he says, we're assisting to lots of venture capital rounds for Italian biotech. Do you think that Italy could become competitive on a global level in the biotech space? And as a former VC, which are the main features that you evaluate at first in an early life science biotech startup?
Okay.
Very technical here.
In Italy, we have something that in the science that can really compete at the European level and sometimes to the global level. I want to say that everything is simple or it's a great opportunity. For sure, there are opportunities. And you really need to understand the quality of the science. As I try to explain during this discussion, you can try to invest in a biotech company if you have something that so you need it. The science is clearly the first step to build up a company. Then you need the entrepreneurial part. And if you are able to put together science, innovation, and the entrepreneurial part, you will find all the money that you need. Sometimes since there is a lack of VC in Europe in general and in Italy in particular, all the team, all the entrepreneurs are very focused on raising money. But money are a service to develop the company, are the consequence of the fact that you are able to put together entrepreneurial part and innovation. So and I can explain also to the second part of the question about the venture capital experience. No, and this is the key. Not to stay focused on the investment, on the money part, not because it's not important, because there are maybe now less than before, but in the last 5-10 years, the amount of money was huge outside. The question is that money are smart. They are looking to take the right risk with the potential return of that investment. And to do that, the real bet of the smart money is on the entrepreneur part. They want to see who is the owner, the final owner, the CEO and his team, and the bet is on that. Because the science, there is a great science everywhere. Every time that you read a scientific paper in a top tier scientific paper, you see, oh my God, this is great. This is changing the world every time, no? Because the science, because this is the reality. The science, if there is good scientists and they are able really to produce good data, and you are able to overtake the peer review of a scientific review, yes, it's great science for sure. How to transform a great science in a company, in a product one day, this is the challenge. And smart money understand that is the challenge. So science is on the first step, but it's equal as important as the science is the entrepreneurial part. Yeah. You want to see the entrepreneur at the center of the stage, and you want to bet on that entrepreneur with the capabilities to create a company.
Can you remark the saying that they say about startup, that ideas are commodities, but it's execution that matters? Of course, I'm not pretending that science is a commodity, but it's not so much the core of the idea is how you put this into action. And so, as you say, I think this is a very big takeaway.
No, it is. Let me comment on that. The execution is the key. But for the execution, you need people prepared for the execution. Yeah. For that reason, I underline so many times the importance of the development part. Because starting from the fact that maybe in the academia you can find science, maybe in the Italian Polytechnic you can find a great science or innovation, that's it. But you need the capability to develop that science, to create a product. No? For example, now in Italy, there are a lot of technology transfer, money or office or whatever, but you need first something to translate. No? You need public money that support the science because you need something to translate. And you need people that are able to execute the translation. And it is not easy.
Yeah, true. Cristian, I wonder, we may have time for a last question. I leave it to you. I see Maria, Giulia, and David. We maybe can take both very quickly because
the first is very interesting. It's not a question. Is a offer to help. Is how can we help this type of experience to go public, to go great, to be known much, because we have a lot of science, a lot of possibility. But you are a case in Italy or in the US, but we have to publish a lot of cases. So there is a way we can help to enlarge the knowledge about this type of experience. And the last one, if you is interesting, the last one, because it is the last stage of a company. They say they ask if you have an exit strategy or more than one.
Yeah. About the first part, I think that I'd want to use payoff, like global is important, experience outside Italy is important, but really the world has changed somehow thanks to the COVID. And now it's possible also, this is an advantage for someone that is not in the center of the universe. No, for us, was possible to go public in the US thanks to the fact that the world has changed. And this was an advantage, because for me to make a pitch to a US investor using Zoom was the same that a company based in California that they want to pitch it to someone in Boston. So it's an advantage, COVID, and this, let me say, Zoom economy is an advantage for someone that is not in the center of the universe. We have to exploit this opportunity and try to stay closer to the right market where there are the right investors and everything. Think about our road show. There is no more the road show in terms of the road. It's a virtual, it's a Zoom show. No? And this is an incredible advantage in terms of the cost, especially for someone that is not US based. I don't know how much money we saved, but think about flights, 3, 4, 5 people that move around the US, like the US president during the election period. I mean, that is crazy in terms of cost and the effort for the people. And this is what has really changed. So in terms of how can we help to create other success stories, to be open and to leverage on the change of the world, to be close to the place where technology is happening, and you can really exploit a lot of the technology to be there. What was this? The last one question was about them. The exit, yes. But also, more than 90% of the biotech companies like Genenta will be acquired by a big pharmaceutical company, because the complexity of our sector and the advantage to be part of an already established organization is so large that doesn't make any sense, not any, but there is not a lot of sense to create a new pharma company. Think about that for the pipeline of the big pharmaceutical company, the 60-70% of the pipeline of the big pharmaceutical company stems from outside the biotech, from outside the big pharma. So they are great in M&A, and they need to have products every day, every month, every year to sustain that pipeline. So my market are based on the fact that at the end of the story, big pharmaceutical company are, let me say, the big acquirer, the big buyers of the market. So my idea, the exit idea of Genenta is to demonstrate the quality, the feasibility, the safety, and the efficacy of our technology in a phase 2, in a larger study, and then start to have a partnership with big pharmaceutical company. And at that point, it will be very likely that company will be the buyer of Genenta.
Okay, good. I'm afraid that we've come to the end of our very pleasant conversation. Thank you very much, Pierluigi, for being so direct, so rich of information. Thank you, everybody, for placing the questions that have made this conversation very lively. Thank you, Cristian, for being an exceptional partner of this interview. So my aim is to say hi. Thank you very much. You'll receive the key takeaways of our conversation in the next days via email. Pierluigi, can we dare to ask that you come back in a year time to tell us what next steps Genenta has come to, if we haven't read it on papers yet? With this, thank you very much. Have a great day and see you to the next at the next breakfast in 1 month's time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Camilla. Ciao, Cristian. Ciao a tutti.
Ciao, Pierluigi. Grazie. Ciao.
Buona giornata a tutti.
A tutti.